Hello, this is Matt Danielson. I'm going to be demonstrating the second and final part of the project for CS457. So what I'm looking at here is my Ubuntu setup. I've got 4 terminals open. One is going to be for running the server. I'm going to run 3 instances of the client so I can demonstrate them talking to each other. So in the files I'll provide, I'll have this main folder, Project2. If I look inside there, I've got 2 subfolders. One is CPP for C++. That is going to be the server that I wrote for the first assignment, along with some modifications for this project. And then I also have a Python folder. I ended up writing my client in Python 3, and I wrote my GUI using the library tkinter. So there's more details of this in my README, but just so you know, I'll need Python 3 and tkinter to run my client. So if I go ahead and I change into my C++ folder, I have my README available, and so if I go ahead and print out the contents of that, and I come up to the top here, there will be the command that will run my server. So it's going to be this one right here. It's got G++ as the compiler, and it's going to need to compile these classes. So go ahead and copy this, and then I will run it. That'll take a minute to spin up. Over on this top right box terminal, I'm going to run the first instance of my client. So this is in the Python folder. So if I go in here, I can see that I have a client.py. This Python file is going to run my client. And I also have a folder conf. If I list that out, I can see that I have my chatclient.conf file, and then this will be the same format as in assignment 1. So if I look at that, I just got a few of these variables set that we can use to start the client, and I'll demonstrate that in a minute. So I can see that my server is started up and it's waiting to accept some sockets. So how I can start my client is I need to use Python 3. So in my case on Ubuntu this will be Python 3. And then I want to run client.py. So the first thing that shows up, this is my GUI screen for my clients. I'll put this one up over here. And you can see that there's a couple of pieces of information you need. The first 2 boxes specify the server information I want to connect to. So the host will be the local host, and then it'll be port 2000. I have 2 entry fields. There's one to log in and one to register a new user. So this one will be used if the user is already known on the server. This one will be if I want to add a new user. So if I can go ahead and demonstrate some of the login capabilities that my server supports in my client. So for example, I know from the files that is passed to the server that one of the default users is Matt, and the password is pass, P-A-S-S. But one of the things I can try is if I use the user Matt and I put in the wrong password, I try and log in, it'll tell me that the password is incorrect. So I know that the user does indeed need to pass the correct password in order to log in. My server does check passwords for authenticity. So if I do pass, then it'll let me log in as Matt. Now this will bring up the main user frame that interacts with the server and that you can use to talk to each other. But I'm going to set this aside for now and start another client so I can show some of the registering capabilities. So on this one, what I want to do is pass a command line argument when I start my client, and that'll show how those are implemented. So in this case, I want to do Python 3 client.py again, but in this case I want to pass my username, so I'll do -u, and we'll call this one Jim. So if I go ahead and start this client, now you can see that when I started it up, it auto-filled Jim into the username fields. So that way, that's how I'm handling the user line arguments. Is it'll basically auto-populate this form, so it makes it easier for the user. So I'll set this one down here. We'll start up a third one. This time we're going to use a configuration file for the client. So if I look at the configuration file again, you can see that on this one the server used is 127.0.0.2. I'm going to use port 2001. So if I run a client, but I pass in a configuration file, so -c, I'm going to pass in my chatclient.conf. In this case, I can see that the host was set to 127.0.2 and the port was 2001. But that's not going to go anywhere, so we'll change it to the correct host and port. Now, one thing to know is that if you try and log in without any information, it just simply won't let you. It does need the correct spaces filled in. But let's go back to this one, and we'll look at Jim, for instance. If I were to try and log in with username and password of Jim, this is going to tell me that the user does not exist yet. Try registering instead. So in that case, I'm going to put in my new information down here, and this one will let me register, and it will also log me in. On my third one, I can demonstrate that if the user tries to log in with someone who's already on the system, or tries to register with someone already on the system, it'll tell me, sorry, that username is taken. And so instead I'll have to register as someone else. So we'll go ahead and do Sally. Now, looking at my main user content frame, there are a list of channels that are on the left side over here. This one, when you click on each channel, it's going to activate that as the main user frame. So, for example, the default one got a message of my banner from my server, which is that this is Matt Daniels chat server. Enjoy. So if I want to get some information, like for example, I want to send the command info. My info command returns the server version. And in that case, the server messages come back and they show in each of the different frames, because I want the user to be able to track information from the server across the different channels that they're on. But if I were to join a channel, so if I were to just try and send a message like, hey, the first thing it's going to tell me is that I haven't joined the channel, so I need to join. So let's go ahead and join a channel, and we'll join the channel Stark. These are my Game of Thrones references. So it told me I joined the channels. Now if I come down to the Stark channel, so when I click on this, it changes the active frame. I can say, hey, and it'll tell me, so Matt just said hey, so this is the user Matt. If I come back to the other one, that did not show up in any of these other channels. It's only on the frame for that channel that the user is joined on. I can also demonstrate this user, Jim, joining the other channel. So he will also join Stark. And now, if Jim wants to say, hey, so it didn't let me show it because I'm not on the right channel. So I need to collect the right channel. Now I can say, hey, and because Jim joined Stark, then it'll show up over here. Okay. One of the things I can show is that if two users are talking to each other and a third one is not on that channel, it'll still buffer the conversation so that when they come back to it, they can still see it. So for instance, if this user over here, who is Sally, also joins this channel, and so Sally will say hey as well. And you can see that on each of the different messaging boxes. Now, let's say Matt wants to go and talk in a different channel, so I can change frames to something else. So now I'm looking at the default channel. If these two users talk to each other, so Jim can say, hey Sally, and Sally will say, hey Jim. These two are talking on the Stark channel, and this is not showing up here, but if Matt goes back to that, then I can see that the buffer continued and the conversation continued while he was looking on a different channel. Now, one of the things that I wanted to be able to do is add user channels. So what I can do is if I want to add in a new user channel from Matt, I'll call this one Tully. You can see that each of the users now got the new user channel populated as an option that they can click on. And so this shows up with a hashtag next to it to indicate that it's a user channel. They can join it just like any other. So it'll be join #Tully. I will join the channel. So if I come down to it now, I can talk in it. Now, one of the things that is important is that if this user is done with the channel, then they want to quit, they can, that channel will die with them. So because Matt created Tully, if he quits, then we want Tully to go away. So I'll go ahead and quit. And you can see that indeed, for these other two users, the channel Tully went away. So you can also use the X to quit, and that'll send the quit message to the server. So I think that covers everything that demonstrates the GUI. There's more information in the README for some of the lower detail commands and things. And I hope you enjoyed. Thanks.